good evening, viewers, and thanks for joining us on another interesting edition of Point Blank. I'm your regular host, Demola Alalade. On tonight's program, we're going to be discussing how we can sustain a good, thriving business. And to discuss that topic tonight with me, I have with me in the studio an entrepreneur, a great woman of integrity. She's also a very successful businesswoman. She is the entrepreneur, she is the proprietor or the owner of Broadway Restaurant, a restaurant based here in the UK. I have with me Mrs. Joke Kono. I sincerely hope I got the pronunciation right.
You did, thank you.
Anyway, thanks for coming on Point Blank tonight. Briefly, we're going to be, looking at who Mrs. Joke Kono is. Where were you born? How did you start your restaurant business?
Thank you. I was born with the name Joke Adegboye, and I got married to a man called Kono. So my name is Joke Adegboye Kono. I was born in Nigeria sometime in the early 60s, and I went to school in Nigeria. Most of my schooling was done in Nigeria, although I've had a professional course here as well. When I came to the UK, I did a PGC sometime in 2008. So that's basically my educational background. But I've also been an entrepreneur. I've done a lot of business from, I think, as far back as 1989, and I'm still here today.
Has it always been in the catering
No,
industry?
it's been in the food business. I used to be a major distributor for Nestle Foods Nigeria PLC, Wamco Nigeria PLC, the makers of milk and beverages, Maggi and things like that. And I only got into the catering business, I think, in 2010. But I've always been in food, and I'm always a lover of food. I will call myself a foodie, somebody who likes to taste food, and I will go any lengths to get good food to eat myself.
So I want to assume that's what prompted you to start this restaurant business.
It became a natural thing, coming from being a food importer, exporter, as it were. And then if I wasn't doing that, then I would be doing this. So I think it's something that came naturally to me once I stopped doing what I was doing in the past.
So how has it been so far? You said you started this food business, this restaurant business in 2002?
2010.
2010. 2010 till now. How has it been?
Well, it's been good. We thank God for His mercies. It's the grace of God that sustains anything, and so I would like to acknowledge that it's God Himself that has kept us there. We came into the business at a time when, there's this cash crunch, and people had very little disposable income. It's when you have to spend on the necessary things, and then you have a little bit of extra, that you want to go out. You want to take your partners and your family out to a restaurant. So we came in at a pretty rough time, but somehow, I think through the grace of God, we have been able to stick in there through the tough times, and we are in a better place today.
Okay, because I know the food business in this part of the world, obviously you've got so many competitors. You've got other restaurants, other nationalities who've got their own restaurants as well. How has it been, coping with this sort of competition?
Well, I think what we did, because we opened our business in a place called Deptford. One, we thought that was a place that had quite a high influx of Africans, and particularly Nigerians. So we thought that was a good place to start that kind of business. And even within that area, you still have about, on the same high street, you still have about 7 good competitors. But we set ourselves out not to compete with those who were there by carrying a sort of niche. In other words, we targeted a different kind of people. The kind of people they would attract based on their prices and what they had to offer were different from ours. So I think that stood us out. and made us different from the others. And initially,
who are these different people that you?
When I say the others, I said on Deptford High Street, I would have about 6 to 7 competitors.
Yeah.
That means people who owned restaurants as well, and Africans.
Okay.
So those were kin. If I'm talking about competition, far and wide, or all over the world, or different parts of the world, you have chicken and chip shops, you have kebab shops. I would say we have about 30 or so competitors on the same high street. So, but just bringing it home to just African food, I would say 7 good competition on the same high street where we are. So it's just separating ourselves by the kind of food we had on offer, the quality of the food we had on offer, the kind of people we targeted based on the prices that those food will cost. So that was a bit difficult, and while people would resist that, if you are used to getting food for £5 in the past, and then somebody comes up and says, "Oh, my food is £10," but we maintained the standard of giving very good quality food, fresh ingredients, and a very consistent chef in the kitchen, so that people can get used to the good quality all the time. So that, I think, is what has made us stand out and has kept us still there today.
Okay. I mean, do you do, because I know some other restaurants do come in, sit in, eat your food and go. Do you do takeaway foods, or do you do packaging and all this kind of services?
Yeah, we do packaging, we do takeaway, but it's not the kind of takeaway that you come in and you find the food there on the shelf and then you point to what you want. No, our restaurant basically is like a fine dining restaurant. You come in, we expect you to sit down, and you place your order, you have a drink, wine, minerals, whatever. But then some people obviously want to take food home, and so for such people, it was because our foods are always prepared fresh. We don't just stick them out, and then we would take time, about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, to get you to take your food home if you want. And I think that also would be available in any restaurant where I don't want to eat now, I want to give it to my wife at home. We'll still be able to pack the food for you to take home.
Okay. But just before we go on, I'd just like to remind our viewers that if you are interested in sponsoring this program, you could call us on 07588 723 663, or drop us an email at admin@fusionplustv.com. Mrs. Kono, that takes me to my next question, and that's in the area of customer services. I have been to so many restaurants, Nigerian restaurants, other African restaurants. They don't actually provide good customer services to people. What's your own idea of a good customer service?
Well, my idea of a good customer service is the customer coming into the restaurant made to feel very, very comfortable, served on time, and then a waitress or a waiter is very friendly, willing to help you, and generally giving you a good time when you're there, such that you want to come back. I have been to some cash and carries, and to many, because that's where we source our drinks and things from. And I went to a particular one, and I thought, I don't know what they could have done to the staff to motivate them that much. Because right from the gate, the man is smiling and welcoming you, and then you get to the entrance and then most importantly, you get into the shop and then you need help. And you are calling on someone, and immediately he leaves what he's doing to take you to where you need the help. Real good customer service. So that's my idea of what good customer service is. For a restaurant, you should be able to come in, comfortable surroundings, good ambience, good music, sit down, feel comfortable, not a waiter that is already looking very angry. And then when the food comes, ultimately you want good food. That's why you're coming to the restaurant, to give you very good food, such that you want to come back.
Broadway restaurant.
Broadway restaurant.
Do you provide that?
We do. We do. In short.
So, if you do, your staff, are you thinking of, anyway, do you engage them in sort of like training programs whereby they, you train them on customer services?
What I do is, here it's a bit challenging to get the exact kind of staff you would want to give you the best And why would that be a challenge? The challenge is from how much you would have to pay them and how much your customers are willing to pay for their food. And by the time you add that cost to the food, it may become too expensive and customers may not be willing to pay that much. And so we have to make do with people who have less experience. But I bring my own experience to bear because I'm there with them most of the time to tell them this is what you do. Apologize if there's a mistake. If they don't like their food, you're willing to take it back, give them another one. Generally, let them feel comfortable. We know our customers by their names by the time they come the second time. Even the staff in the kitchen would know whose food we are preparing so that, some customers want it hot, some customers want it mild, some customers want a lot of sauce, some don't like the sauce, and things like that. So I bring a lot of experience to bear. I'm there, in the front house, trying to teach these young people how to behave. And I think from the kind of feedback we get, I think we do very well in the area of customer service.
Okay. I'm sure most of our viewers are out there are yearning to speak to Mrs. Konu. And if you're willing to call into the program, please, the number to call in is scrolled at the bottom of the screen. It's 0203 355 5526. You've mentioned one of the challenges that you face in terms of customer services. What other challenges do you face in this industry?
Well, basically, the kind of challenges we face will be general. That's what everyone in the business would face. But some of us are not able to. If, for instance, when we did a feasibility on the business to start with, I think I thought I had only 3 bills to pay. I thought I had to pay for electricity, which would be running most of the day. I had to pay for gas, which would be running most of the day. And I had to pay business rates. But I was wrong. I was wrong. I was very wrong. And the man who did my feasibility was very wrong. Because we have about 14 odd bills to pay, some monthly, a lot of them on a monthly basis, some on a quarterly basis, and so on. So the amount of money you have to cover, apart from lights, gas, business rates, you pay for music. If you are playing music, you have to pay a particular money amount on a monthly basis to an agency called PRS for music. And then you pay for water.
Do they provide music at the restaurant?
They don't. Once you play music in any form, even though we have a license to have live music and things like that, and then most of the time the music we're playing are, from Nigerian artists who perhaps will not get the royalties from here, but they insist that once you play music, you must pay it's some sort of royalty to this agency. You pay for your TV if you have a TV there, and not to talk of if you have sports TV, you pay so much that I'm sure a lot of people may not be able to afford that. And then the license you have for food means that you must have a company, a pest control company, whether you have pests or not, who would have to come in on a monthly basis. And so you have to pay them, and you have to pay your insurance for the food, for public liability, and then you pay for burglary and things, and then you have to pay for the fire insurance for the premises you're on. And it's almost an endless list. The other time I wrote it down, I had 14.
Wow.
And that is the truth. That's the kind of bills you have to pay. So when people, and then that's not to talk about VAT, because if you are intending to run a business that will run into hundreds of thousands, turnover, then you must pay VAT by the time you are going above 50,000. That's the requirement. So when you have to cough up 20%, there's no way you can tell the customer that he's paying £10, but in actual fact, £8 is what you are getting for what they're paying, because the 20% has to go to the government. So those are the kind of challenges, because others can do without, those things. But if you want to run a viable business, a business that would, stand the test of time, then you want to, do all the things you have to do. So that's where we are.
So with all these bills that you pay, all these extra bills that you pay, do you add a little bit to the prices? Does it affect the prices of your food?
No, we try and make it very standard. £10 is the average, very decent meal, African meal that you eat from our premises. which means you are really paying £8 and £2 will go to the government. We don't change our prices. We've just found a comfortable place to leave the price of food, and then we just roll on, hoping that many more customers will come. The more they come, then the more we're able to cope with these bills.
Okay. I mean, you've got just one branch at the minute.
Yes.
The only one in Deptford.
Yeah.
Are you thinking of expansion?
Definitely. I've seen many areas where, even fast food or, a lot of some shopping malls where, that a lot of Africans come in here. And perhaps, the kind of suya barbecue, or just jollof rice, pounded yam and egusi, those fast things that people would really love to eat if they come in. And we've seen quite a few places, but we want to be very, very comfortable, and we want to have a set standard so that by the time we are proliferating, by the time we're going these places, we're already very secure in what we're going to provide.
Okay, I mean, I think you're thinking ahead.
Indeed.
So in the next 5 years, where do you see your business?
Well, I see our business going stronger. I see us having more branches. It's a family business which I'm running on behalf of my children. Most of them are chefs in their own right. They can cook very well. We would cook the same way, because the difference between what we do and what will generally happen is that we're cooking by weights and measures, and so that if I'm not there and somebody else is there, you should be getting exactly the same the same taste. So I think in the next 5 years we would have many more branches.
So you will be competing with the likes of KFC, McDonald's.
Undoubtedly, although we provide very different type of food.
I understand.
But that's the kind of thing we're looking at.
That's interesting. I mean, what sort of feedbacks at the minute? What sort of feedbacks are you getting from your customers?
The feedback we're getting is that our food in the Broadway restaurant is one of the best. I'm being modest. I'm not going to say.
I would like to come and have a taste of it.
The feedback we're getting is that we serve very, very fresh food. Although people are very, very anxious when they come in because they don't want to wait. But for your food to be fresh, then you need to wait a few minutes extra. But the feedback we're getting is very, very comfortable. We find a lot of people who come, and the very interesting ones are the ones who are not looking like Africans, maybe mixed race or straight away white people who already know African food and eat African food. There's a gentleman, for instance, who comes in and wants jerk chicken. We used to offer jerk chicken, and but because it's not very popular, as in a lot of it will go to waste.
Exactly.
And so we only start making them maybe just for weekends and things like that. And then he comes in during the weekend, he wants jerk chicken, and he didn't get it the first time, the second time. And then I think he asked for something like egusi and pounded yam, and then he took it. And the next day I saw him again. This time he wanted egusi. So I said, "Oh, what happened?
Wow.
You have given up on your jerk." He said, "No, your egusi tastes so good," and that's why I would always come for it. So that's where we are. Yeah. That's where we are.
I mean, so many people when they start. I think we've got our first caller on the line. Good evening and thanks for joining us on Point Blank. Can we know your name and where you're calling from? Hello, caller. Can you please speak up a bit?
Okay, I can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, can we know your name and where you're calling from?
My name is Abby.
Okay, good evening,
I'm
Abby.
calling from Kilburn.
From Kilburn. Thanks for joining us on the program. Have you got any question or?
Yes, I just want to ask the lady on your program.
Okay, she's listening.
Talking about Nigerian restaurant. You ask her that how does she take customer care? And I just want to know what was the most questions that customer normally go out with and they ask. What is most of their complaint?
I think what he's trying to ask is that when you have your customers coming in, what's the common complaint that customers do ask or do make when they come to a Nigerian restaurant?
Well, I'll be able to talk about our restaurant. The general thing I know is that no one has ever complained about the service of the waiters because they are the people they are confronting. Sometimes people want to complain about some food, they don't, you understand. But we wouldn't let you go out with a complaint because we would have offered you something else, we would have offered you an alternative, we would have, given some sort of compensation, maybe giving you a free food. There would always be something we would do to make up for people who are complaining about one thing or the other. Maybe you think you didn't want it mild, you wanted it too hot, or you wanted it hot and then it's coming mild, and so just little complaints like that. But the most important thing I know about customer service is that people should be made very comfortable and not to be scared, to voice their opinion or to sit down and enjoy their meals. And we haven't really had any complaints because we are very, very particular about how the waiters and the waitresses address them. So
I hope that answers your question.
Yes, but we know that customer are always the customer, in the business world, they're always right. But at times, some customers are very annoying. And how do you deal with a customer that is very annoying? How does she deal with it?
Well, some customers are very, very difficult. And one of the problems we have from where we come from is that we think because somebody is a waiter or a waitress, they are beneath us. And that doesn't happen in this country. In this country, somebody is a chef. You have very famous chefs who have so much money. And there's dignity in labor. But our people would immediately just assume that because you're a waiter, they should talk down at you and, be very, very rude to you, and not say thank you because they think, after all, they are paying £10. Yeah, they're just a waiter. So when they get into that kind of situation, they just call me up if I'm not there. And the moment they see me and I'm speaking to them, honestly, their tone changes immediately and everything goes well. We'll apologize if we have made a mistake. If they are being too difficult, we'll ask them in a very nice way what they want us to do. And if it is something within our power to do, we'll do it. And if not, we'll just have to give up on that. But generally, I will be called in if it's a very, very difficult customer who is being rude to our waiters and our waitresses, and I will deal with it in a very, very...
Yeah, but do you go further? Do you go further to find out, what could have gone wrong?
No, usually once I'm called up, so the first thing is what they have done. A customer came in the other day and she asked for the menu and they gave her the menu. She said, I will order later. Obviously, our restaurant is not like McDonald's where you can come in and sit for 3 hours and we're still waiting for your order. And in that time, you are actually having a meeting with 3 people on the table and I think you have ordered a Coke, which would cost about £1. And then after 1 hour, the waiter comes and says, do you want to make the order now? And then you think, oh, you're so rude. And we're having a meeting. I said, I'll order later after, And in such a situation, I was called up and I said, yes, can I help you? What's the problem? So she said, oh, your waiter is being rude to me. I told her I will order later this and she's coming and she's disturbing me. So I said, well, usually we don't expect you to sit down and have a meeting that has taken about an hour now without actually knowing what you're going to order. You might as well pack your bags and walk out of the restaurant on a glass of Coke, which is £1 that you have ordered. Sitting on the chair, fair wear and tear. They're leather chairs, they would, go bad after a while when people just sit on them and they're not actually patronizing us properly the way we expect. For 4 people to sit down and have a meeting, I would expect you that the minimum you want to spend in that place is £10. So even if you're not spending that much, £10 per head, if you're not spending that much, at least you would have made a commitment to, some sort of order. So in that situation, I had to tell her that is the rule, really.
So your restaurant is supposed to be a restaurant.
It is a restaurant.
Not supposed to be a meeting place. Do you allow that in your restaurant?
No, we have a meeting place.
Okay.
When people want to have a meeting, they pay for the. We have a space downstairs in the basement that we actually use for small parties and meetings and so on. So when people want to have their meetings, they are free to come in and then we'll tell them. It depends on how much they're willing to spend. If it's a meeting that would involve people, eating and things and drinking, then we actually allow them to use the place free of charge. But you are not able to come in and just sit down, have a meeting on a glass of Coke, and leave. We provide the facility for people to come in and have their meeting, but there will be a charge for that.
Okay, I hope that answers your question. I think our viewer, that caller has gone already. Yeah, I mean, when you started this business, has there been any time when you thought, oh, I can't continue with this, the pressure is too much, I'm just going to let it go? Has that been any time like that?
And we never thought. I'm not a quitter, let's say.
We'll come back to that. I think we've got another caller on the line. Good evening, caller. Good evening.
Hello?
Hello, good evening, caller. Can we know your name and where you're calling from?
I'm calling from Thamesmead.
From Thamesmead.
I'm from, yes, Thamesmead,
Okay.
number 28.
Okay, thank you. Can we have your question, ma'am?
I want to ask a question.
Yeah, go on, ask your question.
I'm a regular visitor of Exxon.
Okay, go on.
I like the African food that is prepared. May I know whether in future you are going to eat other nations' food?
Are you asking if Broadway is going to be making other nations' food?
I think that's a question.
Hold on. Huh?
Yeah, go on, ma. We're listening.
Yes, I want to know whether you are introducing another nation's food. I satisfy with it as you do at the moment.
Okay.
Yes, already, because usually Africans who come in know exactly what they want, so they don't actually look into the menu to see the kind of other nations' foods that we have on offer. But even right now, we do some Jamaican foods. We do jerk chicken, like I said. We do peri peri chicken, which is like, peri peri chicken is not a Nigerian thing. It's so we do those things. And
where's peri peri chicken from?
Well, peri peri chicken is all over the place. I mean, they even do it here. But the recipe, I think, originally comes from somewhere like Mexico.
Okay.
You understand? But I think as well in Africa, back home, you find a lot of restaurants with some peri peri. And peri peri actually means using long red peppers and garlic and some wine to marinate your chicken or whatever. So we do that, which is not typically Nigerian, and we do the jerk and a few other Jamaican dishes which we can have people to order. They can pre-order, and then.
So it's mainly, if it's not purely African, then it's going to be Jamaican.
Yeah, if it's not purely African, it's going to be Jamaican because it's still the black theme.
Okay.
You understand? It's still the black theme.
So I think that answers your question, ma'am.
I think you've lost her.
I think we've lost her there. Yes, as I was asking the other time, has that been any time you've thought of quitting the business?
Oh yes, when we started initially, I told you about the feasibility. That told me exactly I could hire 5 people, and I would only pay so much bills, and so we had it all worked out that it was going to be profits, straight away. And then we had a lot of outstandings for people who had given us services for the sign, the board sign outside, for the shutters. We had a lot of people we needed to pay. So what we did was to issue checks, believing that we had started the business, the money would start rolling in. And then the money wasn't rolling in at all, and all those checks had to come back with a charge of £70 on each of them. It was so bad. And one of the tradesmen actually came and said, you know what, I need to pay someone, but if I don't tell him, if I don't show him that I have a check from you, he's going to be after me. So you just give me a check, I won't put it in, just give me a check. And then I think a week later I got a call from Money Shop because he had taken that check to Money Shop.
Wow.
He had cashed it, and now Money Shop was after me again. It
Okay.
was a hellish time for us when we just started the business. We were just working and, you know, trying to pay the staff. We were only trying. We couldn't pay business rates for that whole year. We couldn't pay electricity for that whole year. It was a very, very difficult time. But then we were not quitters. When I say we, myself and the children who are involved in the business, we decided that we would, you know, continue. We just continued. And one interesting thing happened. The guy who had taken the check, the day he took the check to go and he said he was going to give it to his own supplier, and then I just gave him 2 packs of jollof rice and jerk wings to take home. And then he came back the next day and they told me he's upstairs again. I said, oh, what has he come for again? I thought we had settled it. I should give us a few more weeks and we're going to pay him. So, but apparently he had come to eat jollof rice and jerk chicken.
I was going to say that.
So I said, oh, I came upstairs, I said, oh, he said, well, all he can say is that if you continue providing this kind of food, the only way is up. You know, and so such little comments, you know, allow us to think, well, in due course, many more people will know about what we have on offer. And I know, you know, that I would go any length to get good food. And anybody who likes good food, who has been to the Broadway, will want to come back again because we serve very good food. So I believe that that has taken us through these many years, and that's why we're still here today. But those times were really, really rough times for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any plan at all, maybe for the future? You know, we have other countries, the food, the Chinese food, you know, the packaging. Is there any way that you're going to be packaging all these foods, like the jollof rice, like the moi moi, for instance? I know I've started to see some moi mois in packaging. Any plans for the future to start to do Nigerian food, you know, packaging?
Yeah, that has occurred to me that the one of the ways that we think it can be done, that the taste would not change and it will still be African. Because if you have to do a long life thing that will be sealed in a tin, then perhaps you have to use some chemicals to make them, you know, to make them good for a long period of time. So I'm thinking that something like an Iceland thing is what would work perfectly for African food. That food's prepared fresh and frozen straight away, that people can get as well from the freezer at a very good price. Yeah, I think we're thinking in line of that. Yeah. So
you feel Nigeria food will be able to compete with in the international market?
I believe so. I believe Nigerian food. I've seen quite a lot of people liking our jollof rice and liking the sauces that we have on offer. You understand? So if you have something like egusi sauce, you know, very mild, in Iceland, of course, our people will buy it, knowing that they can make their pounded yam. A white man would buy it, knowing that this is a very typical African sauce that you can use with your mashed potatoes and things like that, or boiled potatoes or boiled rice. Yes, I think those sauces would do well on a frozen kind of thing. Yeah.
I know this business is very time consuming and very demanding. How do you manage your time? You know, to do other things, like, does it affect your social life? Do you do any other thing apart from this?
The way I explain it is that we're in a social environment all the time. You understand? People coming to us are actually coming out. So we are socializing with them permanently from Friday through to Sunday. But we do give ourselves time off during the week, Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, as the case may be. Each person takes time off to rest and catch up with other things. But it's I would say that I work something like maybe 100 hours a week. It's ridiculous. The working hours are, for us to have this kind of consistent taste I have mentioned, I need to be there, and so I work those crazy hours. But I still make time if I have to go out on a Saturday night. Something may be happening in the restaurant. And usually it's customers who are friends to having other dues, and we still go out and we're part of
the function.
Yeah, their functions.
So what other things do you engage in apart from let's put business aside. I think we've got another call on the line. Good evening, caller. Thanks for calling in. Can we know your name and where you're calling from?
Hi, my name is Linda. I'm calling from New Cross.
Hello, Linda. Have you got any question for my guest?
I have a question for the lady there. The thing is, with African food, I've got to come to their restaurant before, and I really like their food. But then one thing I noticed is that with all these restaurants, when you get outside catering, and they need to make food for so many people, the food don't really taste as sweet as it is when you come to the restaurant. So I want to ask that lady there, how she does her own. Does the food taste really good when they're doing quantity for hundreds of people? I don't know, because usually I'm quite disappointed when I get, large orders. I see that the food quality is not the same.
Well, obviously she's not talking about Broadway restaurant in terms of
she's talking about generally. That if you cater for
outside catering.
Yeah.
Like I said, what does not normally happen, for Nigerian businesses or for Nigerian cooking, is that you just put, a bit of salt, add some Maggi, add a bit of oil. There's a time to add oil. There's a certain amount of oil for 1 kilo rice, and so there's a certain amount of oil for 20 kilo. I would put my hands up to say that whatever quality we provide in that restaurant, if we did a party of 100 people, jollof rice for 100 people, it would be exactly the same taste. We have had many orders. People who have eaten our rice and they'll come back and say, I need 2 coolers of jollof rice, I need 1 cooler of fried rice, and so on and so forth. And we have always had very good feedback, very, very good feedback, especially from that kind of food. We deal with weights and measures and things for our food. So it's usually the same taste. We haven't been very much out there. We intend to start doing that now, because I have been to parties as well, and I wonder what kind of caterers are preparing this food. But one thing I have noticed is that there's so many itinerant traders, caterers. They're actually working from home, and they are the ones, because they don't have any costs overhead. So it's cheaper for the man or for the woman having a function to have somebody supply jollof rice, supply this. But then we would have a name, and so we would not put our name, and present bad food. So usually they're using itinerant caterers who do not have overheads, and so the standard will be different from what you see in restaurants where
people, individuals, saddle individuals who just prepare those food from home.
Sometimes.
And take it to the parties.
Yeah, sometimes.
It does happen.
Yeah, it does. So if the lady wants to have a party for 100 people, or knows any African having a party, I would tell you to come into the Broadway, make those orders, and then you'll see the difference.
I hope that answers your question. Broadway is the answer.
It does answer my question, because I come there and I eat jollof rice. We never eaten jollof rice ever, and it tastes so nice. My friend is getting married, and I want to cater, so I just want to ask, because I've been to other Nigerian restaurants where the food is quite disappointing, but then this one, I come in and the food tastes really good, so I want to know, if they can produce the same quality on a much larger scale.
So you've heard it all. Broadway is where to go. So you can visit them. They have the restaurant is based at Deptford in London.
Okay, all right then. Thank you very much.
Thanks for calling in. Thank you very much. So you've got a customer.
I hope so.
So, you've been in this business for quite some time. Are you thinking about when you're going to retire? What's the plan?
Well, when you're doing something, it brings me to something which I have learned from, from my, I won't call it religion, spiritual life. That when you're doing something that you enjoy doing, it's not like work. There's no way I could be working. The kind of work I would do, I'm trained as a legal practitioner. And when I came to this country, I did a PGC to be able to teach law in a college, and I did that for a short time. And I don't see myself doing 100 hours of that in a week. But when you do something which is a passion, something which is not work, when you do something which is your calling, it's not work. And so you are not thinking of retiring. I would constantly go to the kitchen and cook, food naturally, and I still would not be tired. I would be standing in the kitchen for 4 or 5 hours, and I would not call it work. I think the way it is to me now is that I'm not doing anything. I'm just like, helping in the kitchen, helping out in the kitchen. So it's not work. It's not something that you retire from. It's something I enjoy doing, and when I need time to rest, I take time out to rest. And like I said, all my children are also, doing the same things that I do, although they have different lives as well. But then they all do this thing as well.
So do they have their own restaurants as well?
No, they do have their own work. They have
okay.
their own jobs, and so when they come back from work,
so they get involved.
They are involved,
Okay.
yes. And then weekends, all hands on deck. Together weekends.
So you're not thinking of handing over to them at some point?
Oh, definitely.
Because I know definitely you can't carry on for that long.
No, that's why I said there are so many doing it. After some time, I would have to sit back and see what they can do.
And you'll be the one there doing the customer service.
Something like that.
Okay.
Something like that.
Okay. I mean, we've talked on so many things. What advice have you got for people who are looking at starting a restaurant business like this?
Yeah, I would advise them to pray about it, because you really need the backing of whatever you believe in that makes you move, whatever gives you progress. You understand? Some people are Christians, others are Muslims. We believe in something. Just pray about what you want to do. That is the first thing. So that if you have the goal, you have the green light to say, go ahead, then you go ahead. And then once you get there, the very first thing is that this country is a very, very regulated company. And so you don't know the amount of licenses you need to take, from your public, the premises license, to the license for the person who is going to sell alcohol, to your TV licensing, to your food and hygiene training that you have to do to work in the kitchen. And so when you have all of those things, all of the things, the premises where you want to start your business, you must first of all check with the council. If it's not a premises that has been used for a restaurant in the past, you must first of all go and find out before you commit your money to a landlord if there is a license to sell food, because there are designated licenses for different kinds of businesses that you can do. So once you have all of those approvals in your mind, and then you must think of the fact that the first 2 years you would not be making any profit, most likely. And so you must have a lot of money to back up that period of time. Because I've seen a lot of people even coming onto our high street and onto the Deptford Broadway, and then in 3 months they are gone. And it's only a natural thing, because they are confronted with things that they did not in their life. Bargain for. So I think if you have all of those things, first of all, the God you serve, and then the regulations, all the bills and things you have to pay, and then have enough backup. For the first 2 years, it will take time. No matter how much you advertise, it will still take time, because usually for a restaurant, word of mouth is what people believe, rather than just adverts on the telly. So it's the more people come in, the more they go telling other people, those other people come in telling other people. That is the most effective advertisements, and that will take its time. That would take a while. So if you have those 2 years and you have sold through, I believe you'll be okay.
Yeah, but I would still, like to ask our viewers out there, anyone who is interested in sponsoring this program, you can kindly call us on 07588 723 663. That brings me to the final question, or the final note. Just want to find out, so many restaurants have their opening and closing times. What time does your restaurant open, and what time do you close?
Well, we open from 2 o'clock. In the past, we would open at 11. But we realized that the amount of hours we're open for, because based on where we are, we're there in Deptford. There are few offices around, not so many. And so we're running a lunchtime thing before. And then we realized that, the amount of money we would make opening from 11 till about 12 midnight. The amount of money that accounts for the first 5 hours is next to nothing, especially when we have to run the lunchtime at a 50% discount. And so what we have done is we still do the lunchtime, but we have reduced our opening hours from 3 for the few people who really love our food and who still want to come in for a discounted lunch. So we open at 3 and we close weekdays at midnight. But weekends we're open till 4 a.m.
Wow.
On Fridays and Saturdays.
So you can still get jollof rice, pounded yam
Yeah.
at 4 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, if you come in-
For those of you who
yeah.
love to eat pounded yam late, well, Broadway is where to go. You find your pounded yam and your egusi at 4 a.m. in the morning. So, well, that's left to you to
On
decide.
Fridays and Saturdays.
On Fridays and Saturdays, you've had it all. Well, we really do appreciate you coming on the program tonight. This is Joke Kono. Thanks for coming on Point Blank. We sincerely hope that we've been able to tell our viewers out there how to run a successful business, and I'm sure our viewers have gotten one or two things from this discussion. Thank you once again for coming on the program. I also want to remind our viewers that you can still watch this program on our website at any time of the day. Just log into www.fusionplustv.com. And that's all about what we're going to be taking tonight on Point Blank. We do sincerely thank you for staying tuned, and we will be back with you same time next week. Till then, it's good night.